You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast, the best in America.
Welcome to Under the Shell, presented by Inside the Black and Gold. I'm Brendan Weissel.
Sam Jane.
And Michael Howes. And this week we have on Maryland men's soccer coach Sasho Cirovski.
Well, this week we're pleased to welcome on probably the most successful program, at least this fall so far for Maryland athletics, Coach Sasho Cirovski, head coach of the men's soccer program. Coach, we really appreciate you hopping on today.
Well, good to be with you guys. Thanks. Looking forward to it.
First off, can you just kind of break it down for a casual fan who doesn't really follow the soccer team? You guys have, gotten off to an excellent start. Historically, obviously a very successful program. But it feels like this team, I know last year's team reached some pretty high heights, but just how confident are you? You've been a part of some great teams. Where do you feel like this one stacks up just kind of early on in the season?
Yeah, well, we're just over the midway point of the season, and I really like our team a lot. I think we have a good balance all over the field, but most importantly, this is the deepest team that we've had probably since minimally since the 2018 team that won a national title, but maybe even before that, going back to some of the really strong teams in the mid-teens, where we were, running through the country at a pretty good clip. So, yeah, look, ever since the college sports world has changed, ever since post-COVID, with all the changes for various different reasons, we were not able to have as deep a team as we typically have. And though we had really good teams every one of those years, with the exception of the 23 season where we were just devastated by injuries, at the end of the year, when we needed to really be at our best, we were always minus 2, 3, 4, 5 key players. And we were just going into games, like a Yankee Doodle Dandy, where, on crutches and carrying each other. But this year is different. This year, I really like the team a lot. The culture, the chemistry, the balance all over the field is very good.
You guys haven't lost a game yet. You've won 7, 3 ties. Are you a little surprised? I know rankings come out a little bit later today, but are you a little surprised you guys are only ranked 15th to start the year right now?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think the rankings get a little bit better the more games you get under it, just like the RPI. And I think things are sort of starting to stabilize a little bit more. Yeah, I try not to pay too much attention to the rankings until we get into, close to NCAA selection time, because a lot of it is just coaches' opinions. And to be honest with you, some of the coaches in our association don't do a very good job of researching or digging deep into exactly what's happening. So I think the RPIs are better indicators than the rankings at this point. But yeah, I want to be ranked number 1 at the end of the year. I really don't care that much exactly where we are right now. Sometimes it's just good fuel when you feel a little bit under respected.
You were talking about this year's team, but Coach, you've been here for a long time. I want to take it back to 1993 when you joined the program. Before that, before you had came in, Maryland had not had a winning record in the ACC for a long time. They had one winning season since 1977 before you came in. You left Hartford, so obviously a step up in the job quality. Yeah. But did you kind of look at Maryland as like a sleeping giant? Is that why you took the program, or was it just you had confidence in who you were as a coach? Because when you arrived, I read that you were declaring, like, I came here to win national championships. What gave you that confidence?
Well, first of all, I came to Maryland for 2 reasons. I was in love with a young woman named Shannon Higgins, who was coaching GW. So coming down here, it was no longer a 6-hour drive. It was like a 6-mile drive. So that was number 1. Number 2, you said it right. This was a sleeping giant. The ACC was the best conference in college soccer at the time. Maryland is an incredible location, was a really good school, and I really felt like there's no reason why we can't be beating the Virginias, Indianas, Clemson's, Dukes, all those schools I declared in the very first meeting with our players, we're here to win a national championship, not just to be, 500 or just to make a tournament in a conference. That was it. There's a few players that kind of snickered and laughed, and pretty soon they were no longer on the team. We changed the culture. We brought in really highly competitive players that wanted to be part of the bricks and mortar of building the program. And, my second year, we brought 2 top 5 recruits in the country onto the team. My fourth year, we brought 4 top 10 recruits onto the team. And, in 94 and 95, we got to the Sweet 16. We had the biggest turnaround from 93 to 94 in ACC men's soccer history, from 3-14 to 14-6. So we announced ourselves. But the big one was 1996, when we went down to Virginia and won the ACC title in my fourth year, when Maryland was insignificant. And we played an unbelievable game at Klockner Stadium, won 2-0. And that was the moment on national televised that the whole country took notice. And then before you know it, national team kids were calling us, hey, how can I be part of this? How can I be part of this? 98, we get to the Final Four. And then, we started attracting top kids. And then obviously we started our major run in the 2000s where the program started to really take off.
You mentioned Shannon, your wife. Pretty incredible that you guys, one of the most dynamic soccer couples, I think, in all sports history. During that run from like 99 to 06, I think it was, where she was coach at Maryland, date days and date nights probably were easy, right? You guys obviously have how fun was just being able?
Yeah, listen, it was incredibly exciting, fun, but also really tough and challenging. Our first daughter Haley was born in 94, second daughter in 96, and then our third daughter was born in 02. Haley, Carly, and Ellie. So when she took the job in 99, and before that she was coaching at GW and then coached a national team for a while, the youth national teams. It was hard. We had a live-in au pair. She's from Seattle. My family's in the Detroit, Windsor, Ontario, Canada place. So we didn't have much family here. So it was hard. We had to make sure we scheduled, she trained in the morning, I trained in the afternoon. We're passing the baton a lot, but it was awesome. It was awesome. She's one of the best coaches in the history of Maryland women's soccer. She made the NCAA tournament 5 of her 6 years here. But we got to a point after the 04 season where it was just too much for us. With the 3 girls, we were outnumbered. It was 3v2. We were having a time, and she decided to step away from coaching for a while to help with raising our children and supporting what we're doing here at Maryland. But that was incredible. The emotions every day. We tie, she wins. I'm not happy. I'm happy for her. I lose and she wins. She's not happy because I lost, and so it was hard to enjoy some of the good moments if your wife or didn't have the same result. But there was a lot of times, because she had winning records every year, and so did we had a lot more good moments. It was incredible, and again, it just adds to how much this place means to us. Between my 33 years here and her 6 years here, we've almost put 40 years together into soccer at this place in 2 programs, and just we love it.
I want to ask, you kind of mentioned the women's program had probably some of its most success under your wife. Now at the current helm of the program is your former player, Michael Marciano. Why do you think that he can maybe turn some things around for that women's program and kind of get the ball rolling there?
Yeah, when Shannon left, we were able to move Brian Penske, an assistant coach of mine, into the role there, and obviously he did a really good job, and now he's gone on to Tennessee and Florida State, won a national title. I always felt Brian was going to be an outstanding coach, and I thought he was a really good fit for our program, and he's become one of the top coaches in the women's game. Mike was a 2-time national champion here. His wife went to school at Maryland here. He bleeds, the red, white, black, and gold. But I always felt, even when he played for me back almost 20 years ago, I guess, when he first started with me, that he was going to be a coach. He was a coach on the field. He was a leader. He has a way about the way that he thinks about the game and the way that he communicates. He has a good blend of softness and hardness. But he's a nurturing guy. He cares about his players. You can see, I can see the way the women are training and the way that the women are doing that. He's building a really good culture, and he's planting the seeds, I think, of a really good harvest down the line here. So I'm really proud of him.
With this team, and just you kind of played, not team, but athletic department, you've played a big role, I think, in how Maryland operates with the soccer programs and stuff like that. When you're done coaching, do you plan on moving into some sort of administrative role? Is that something you would like to do?
Yeah, I mean, that's TBD. I think I would like to stay connected to Maryland in some way, shape, or form. It might have to be from another part of the country. No, look, I think I've been here a long time. I know many of the donors. I know the strengths of this program and what we can do. So yeah, I definitely want to stay connected to the soccer programs, minimally to the athletic department, for sure, and hopefully to the university at large, because I think that this is a part of my life. I spent well over half my life at this university, and I definitely want to be in some sort of ambassador or consultant or special assistant, to whether it's to the athletic department or to the university as a whole. So yeah, I see a future where I'm involved, but I'm not sure how that might look at the point that I retire.
Do you have a timeline kind of in mind of when you'll retire?
No, I do not. I have goals I haven't accomplished yet, so I'm going to keep going until we accomplish all of the goals I have set forward. So we're going to keep going on right now.
Yeah. What are those goals? What are those goals you kind of have in mind?
Well, as you guys know, I've worked really, really hard over my last 12 years to elevate college soccer into another level, to move into the split season with the spring championship, and to really grow the sport. So I want to be here until I finish that job and we get college soccer played in the practice season, amended into the academic year. That's number one. Number two, I want to put a shovel in the ground for a real soccer stadium that I felt that we deserve, that we should have, that we do not have. And three, I want to bring one more star to the front of our chest. I want to bring one more trophy, the big one, back home. Those are the three things driving me. So I'm working every day to get all of those three things done.
Out of all the national title runs and the college cup runs that you've had, is there a specific moment that kind of stands out to you so far throughout your career?
I mean, I think the first one was unbelievably special. This year at the Indiana game on October 24th, we're going to bring the guys back from the 2005 national championship team. We should have well over half, maybe 3/4 of the players and their families come back to celebrate them. I think the way that one happened was just incredible. We had gone to the College Cup in 02, 03, 04, only to have our hearts broken in really harsh semifinal losses. In every game, we were either equal or the better team, and we didn't come out on top. So in 05, when that group of seniors were able to finish the job and win the title, that's the only title where I had tears of joy. Just unstoppable. So that was probably still the moment that resonates. But my God, I don't know how the 08, the 18 titles. To win in different decades and to go to Final Fours in three decades is not bad. So I just want to make that. I want to add one more decade to that run right now. So we want to get one more.
As a coach, when you have those deep losses late in the year, does it start to feel like a little bit of a mental hurdle where it's like, I just got to get past this round, just got to get into the title game? What is that like as a coach?
No. Like, look, I think one of the things that we talk about these goals, but we don't talk about them on a daily basis. These are goals that are part of why you sign up to play here. So the focus on a daily basis is win the next one, be better, keep getting better. Every game we play, even up until the last game, there are things from the last game that you need to get better at. So we've always focused on, you'll learn from the last game. What is it that we have to get better in this game? And if you keep, getting better in this aspect, and you keep adding those elements, the players have real buy-in because they understand. They go, okay, yes, right. If we keep getting better at that, and sometimes you have to recycle that because you get better in one area, and then you have to redo that again. So our goal is, and you hear coaches cliches, but it's truths. These are truths in life. So we want to be a team that really understands how to pay attention to details, how to understands how much to love and trust your teammates. To be process oriented, and to make sure that every game we play to our standard, and that we show consummate respect for our opponent by making sure they see our best every time. You don't always get that end result, but this is why excellence is our standard. That's the word we say. So, and when we fall short of excellence, it's pretty easy to measure and pretty easy to try to get back to that. It's not perfection. It's not result oriented. It's process oriented. So that's the standard that we want to go to. And when we do that, we usually have a pretty good chance to get a result.
I think that's all we have for you, Coach. We really appreciate it. I know it's game day today, so we don't want to take up too much of your time.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you, guys.
Thanks again.
Okay, take care.
Quick word from our sponsor. The Catalyst of the Game is brought to you by Catalyst Hot Dogs. Catalyst brought the Jersey dog to the DMV. Featuring premium dry-aged Black Angus all-beef hot dogs made in Maryland, they serve it with handmade toppings, including hot onions, relish, and their signature Texas chili sauce. And definitely don't miss, their original garlic knot dogs. Catalyst always offers vegans dogs as well as gluten-free buns because Catalyst has food for everyone. Find them in CQ Stadium in Section 14 and the Xfinity Center in Section 210. Tell the people, guys, it's official. A hot dog is a sandwich. All right, now here's more from Under the Shell.
That was a great interview with Coach Sasho. But let's shift to football for a little bit. Men's soccer team is playing well. Football, this is 2 straight weeks now where the Terps have blown a fourth quarter lead. Sam and I were both watching there at CQ Stadium. Sam, just take me through the second week of a collapse in the fourth.
Yeah, it felt like another game that Mike Loxley's team has lost several times during his tenure here. Over 100 penalty yards, 3 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Not really much to be debated on of the merit of those this week. Some just really dumb and sloppy penalties by Maryland. And ultimately in a game that Maryland forced 3 turnovers, including a pick 6, the fact that you're not able to win that at home in a big spot, I think it just really is another indictment of Loxley and this program just really struggling to kind of land the wins that good teams usually come out on top in. I think that when you look at this season now, yes, expectations have changed. Yes, before the year, if you had said, oh, Maryland will be 4-2 going into UCLA, you would feel okay about it. But at the same time, if you told me that Wisconsin would be horrible and they would win in Madison and then come home and have a chance to beat 2 solid but not spectacular Big Ten teams, I said, okay, well, you better at least get one of those. And now Maryland's lost both of them. And I think in reality, this season doesn't feel that much different from the ones in the past. They just have potentially a more younger and more talented roster. So how you want to balance kind of those two aspects is, I think, the most fascinating question of, yes, they have more talent. Yes, they've changed the expectations. But it's a classic Maryland football syndrome on the other hand. You raise the expectation, but then you constantly fall short of it yet again. And it feels like that's continuously happened during our time here in College Park.
Right. I will note, I don't think the penalties played that big of a role into the actual collapse. I think in the first half, sure, you can say that's why Maryland was down at halftime. But the second half, I don't think penalties played that much of a role. You can point to the intentional grounding by Malik as a penalty, but I think that was more so him as a young quarterback making a mistake at a crucial part of the game. What I will say, though, I like how
Well, that's still a penalty, though. I mean, I'm not just saying the unsportsmanlike conduct.
right,
Overall, that's a bad penalty, no?
right.
Mike,
I'm
well,
putting
if you give a team a first down, it's terrible. You like
right.
unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Some of them are touch and go. The ones in this game were not like that. They were very bad mistakes by
They
a
were
young
very
Maryland football team. Terrible mistakes, seriously.
But I don't think that they were the reason why Maryland lost. I think Maryland lost because, as we've seen the past 2 weeks now, Maryland cannot win the fourth quarter. Their defense
They can't
cannot
tackle. It's
make
tackling. They literally cannot make a tackle in the fourth
the
quarter.
defense can't make a stop when they need to, and the offense can't push the ball and get that final drive to really punch in the win like they should be. At the same time, though, that's 2 top 30 teams that Maryland just fell to by a combined 7 points. Again, we're talking about expectations here. If you had told me that in August that would happen in that 2-game stretch and Maryland would come out of Wisconsin with a win, I still would have said that's a success. It's disappointing for sure. These are wins that Maryland could be 6-0 right now, and we could be on the moon about how good this team is, how good the freshmen are, and we're having a different conversation. I do think it's good to put into perspective, the way that they lost and the fact that this was something inconceivable in August that we would be saying that they had those 2 close games against top teams in the Big Ten this early into Malik's career.
Sure, and I'm the first person to look at perspective and agree with you. But this team is legitimately 5 plays away from being 6-0 and going to UCLA with a chance to be 7-0, and then have a bye week and face one of the best teams in the country in Indiana. If you're looking at it from the Maryland fan perspective, I mean, they are just that close to being, a team that's getting nationally recognized. If they won both those games, they're probably ranked. And it's just, how many times are we going to watch this happen before? I mean, Loxley's not going anywhere, but how many times are we going to watch this happen before the administration just says we can't lose these close games anymore? And when it happens over, many generations of quarterbacks, many generations of offense coordinators, many generations of things, it's like, is it Loxley's fault? It's really hard to say, but it keeps happening.
Yeah, I want to point on, I think Mike made a good point about the fourth quarter stuff, and I think there's a key stat to look at with that. In the fourth quarter, right, teams, especially if you have a lead, teams know you have the ball, or you want to run the ball, drives kind of become compressed. Every down just matters a lot more, and the best way to kind of make sure you're grinding the clock and getting ahead of the chain is successful first down plays, right? If you're able to get 5, 6, 7 yards on first down, you're then able to kind of be way more creative with how you go about play calling. Well, that's not what Maryland did. Let me read you the stat comparison on first downs. Nebraska gained 259 total yards on first down. Maryland only gained 120. The Terps were only made 2 first downs on first down. Nebraska had 11. And then overall, just the running game on first down, Terps averaged just over 3 yards a carry. Nebraska averaged over 6. So the inability to really string together drives in the late portions of games, and then your defense kind of now falling apart 2 weeks in a row in the late quarters, I think is important to think about. So you kind of have to almost separate this game from Mike Loxley's tenure, because they're 2 bigger and broader questions, I think, is like, why does Maryland keep losing these games? And then overall, what does it mean for Mike Loxley and his tenure here and the future of what he's going to do? And I think that those are questions that both have to be asked. I don't really know necessarily if there's a definitive answer for either of them, but it's starting to feel like the 2 are very connected, if that makes sense.
I do want to point to what Loxley said post-game. He said that you can't watch this game and say it's the same old Maryland. And I think he was getting a lot of heat for that online. I'm not going to lie, I can see where Loxley is going with this. Typically, we talked about it last week, a Maryland team goes down 10-0 early. We think they're instantly going to lose this game and collapse. Like, there's no shot for Maryland to come back and win. And they did that. They came back 14-10, got that lead in the second quarter. And again, they went down. They went down 24-14. And then what happens? They go up 31-24. Like, these are things in previous years I don't think would have happened. Did they win the game? No. And I get that's where all the frustration is coming from. but they also showed a lot different of a fight than you would have seen from previous iterations of a Mike Locksley team. Again, they collapsed in a similar way that Locksley did, but I think the fight was there.
I don't know. I I see what you're saying, and it's not wrong, but at the end of the day, it does come down to the win-loss record. Like, yes, this team looks more competent. They're much better than we thought they were going to be. Malik Washington is great. The defense has played much better than we all thought. And so in that sense, I'll give them their flowers. I mean, after the Wisconsin game, we were definitely saying it. This team looked very good, and the over/under for wins is probably still around 6.5. But like, they're going to be competitive in every game they play this year, or most games they play, maybe with the exception of the Indiana game, and that's not something we thought. And so in that sense, I'll give it to you. But if you look at a lot of the games that Loxley's lost, and like, Sam was saying, you got to separate it. That's also the issue, is that they actually make up ways to lose games. This game it was tackling. Last game it was, they couldn't run the ball. Like, you can't always point to one thing and say this is why they lost. And that is, I think, even more frustrating.
Yeah, I think it just, like, if you had to summarize all the important things, right? Like, I hate using the term, like, little things, but it really ultimately, Maryland loses games on the margins when other teams tend to win games on the margins, right? Like, special teams.
It's the most Kevin Willard sentence I've ever heard.
Like, penalties, special team errors, first down, like rushing success, not committing, interesting fourth down calls, those type of things that, like, ultimately kind of other teams that are winning programs tend to do better at than what Maryland does. And I do think that this team is much better. I actually am excited to see them play against UCLA, which we can briefly talk about their trip to the Rose Bowl. But I still think that there is a significant lack of direction right now in late game situations. And that ultimately falls on the head coach. We can sit here and say there's a variety of different things, but no matter what it is, you're getting paid as the head coach and you shoulder the responsibility. And I think when it keeps popping up, Loxley is the person that people will point to.
No, I completely agree. We can look ahead at the UCLA game. You're right. I mean, I just said it too. This team, I think, if you look at their schedule, I think they're going to be very competitive in every game, with maybe the exception of the Indiana game, because they have just dismantled opponents. But seriously, other than that, you look at UCLA, Rutgers, Illinois, Michigan State. I think Maryland will be competitive in all those games. I mean, Nebraska is now 25th best team in the country. This team has played well against some of the better, decent competition in the Big Ten, but obviously they don't get those done. UCLA game, a game we would have easily chalked up as a win 4 weeks ago. They have had 2 incredible weeks coming into this after they fired their head coach. I will say I think part of their success is kind of the classic, teams have had, teams didn't have a chance to scout some of the new coaches and the new schemes and how they're using different players. I think that's played into UCLA's success a little bit, but people knew they had a pretty solid roster going into this year. So it's just hard to know what UCLA team you're going to get. You're probably going to get the one you saw the past 2 weeks, but also, for the first 4 weeks of the season, the Bruins were a joke. What do you guys think?
Loxley kind of mentioned it yesterday in his presser. Like, when you play a team with an interim coach, they're playing loose. They're playing free. They really have nothing to lose when they're playing. So you're going to see the flea flickers. You're going to see the trick plays. You're going to see the double passes. Maryland should be expecting that. That's what UCLA has been doing the past 2 weeks. And like, you're right, it's hard to scout against that when you don't exactly know how a team is going to be utilizing it with the new coaching staff in place. New head coach, new OC, new DC. They're playing completely differently than they did the first 4 games. That being said, there's a little bit more tape on them now from when Penn State played them, even when Michigan State played them. There's now 2 full games where this Maryland coaching staff can take a look and maybe try to stop some stuff that they've been showing the past 2 weeks. So it'll be definitely interesting to see. I think it'll be another good QB battle between Malik and Nico. I thought last week's against Raiola, despite the 3 picks, I thought he made some really nice plays down the stretch for Nebraska to win that game. So I'm excited to see the quarterbacks.
Yeah, man. Jerry Neuheisel, I think his name is. It'll be interesting to watch. UCLA scoring over 40 points a game. They're running the ball a lot better, and Nico looks like a completely different quarterback. They also played a Penn State team that just fired their head coach, and a Michigan State team that is potentially on the precipice of getting rid of theirs. So something to consider as well. Speaking of the Penn State coach, really quick, James Franklin out in Nittany Liontown, out there in the middle of nowhere in Penn State. He's done. Fired after 8 seasons with the Nittany Lions. Right, James Franklin's a lot of things. He's not a loser. He's won a ton of games with Penn State. Didn't really necessarily win the big one. Really struggled against ranked opponents. Those are well chronicled, but he's a coach that is going to be in a commodity on the coaching market. I can guarantee you that. There are going to be teams that are going to be looking at him and trying to woo him in. He does have some history at Maryland. Had 2 different stops here in the 2000s. One is OC, so ties to the area as well. He's from Pennsylvania, but coached here and is from kind of that Northeast region. So Franklin, going to be the biggest name on the market. I would expect this coaching carousel. I don't expect him to really, have a chance at coming back to Maryland. I kind of doubt it. He's going to command a pretty big contract, I would imagine. And if Maryland, hypothetically in this scenario, were to get rid of Mike Locksley this season, are they going to have enough money to then pony up and pay for Franklin? I kind of doubt it, but we'll see. Obviously, big news in the college football world. And Locksley had some things to say about it today, Mike, as you saw. Shout out, the best is ahead, no longer with us.
It's the best is now, yeah. Even before Franklin was fired, I thought of a dream scenario where he would come back to College Park if Locksley ever got potentially fired. But like Sam said, I think the list of suitors that will be there waiting for him, Florida, Arkansas, just to name a couple off the bat, that is a lot better of a job than coming down to College Park. So I think the chances of him coming back would be pretty unlikely.
I mean, he at some point in his career wanted the Maryland head coaching job. He thought that he was going to get it. He didn't get it. I imagine that leaves a pretty sour taste in his mouth. I'd be pretty surprised if he wants anything to do with Maryland. If you've watched when Penn State has played Maryland, when Franklin was the head coach, he kind of made it a point to blow the Terrapins out. There was that heated interaction. I mean, Loxley probably wouldn't call it heated, but there was kind of a heated interaction at the end of the game when they played last year. So I don't think it's coming back to Maryland at all, but I think it's just very interesting that Penn State made the move, and it's because, for them, their expectation is to make the college football playoff every year, and if they're not, they need to find a head coach who's going to do it. Their program was in a weird spot with Aller going down. Like, it just kind of made sense for them, but he had a lot of success there. I mean, they were perennially a top 15 team, and it was just crazy to see. People kind of knew it was coming after the 3-game slide, but the parallels of the whiteout game to losing 3 in a row, they were a couple plays away from being the number 1 team in the country. So, hey, what Loxley said is true. If the best isn't now, then they're going to get rid of you.
Hey, man, I'm just going to, program who coach comes in after a massive scandal, kind of in a down couple seasons, raises the standard up to a certain level, fails to kind of meet that certain standard. That's all I'll say. One school obviously a lot different than the other, but
of course, yeah.
I mean, one school has a top player in that state committed next year and has a freshman quarterback who was a top prospect in the state last year starting. So,
yeah, I mean,
if you fire the coach at that institution, those players might be gone.
I don't think anybody would ever say that Michael Loxley's a bad recruiter. He's a dang good recruiter. It's just a fact.
One school had a 5-star running back, the number 2 running back in the country, who then decommitted from Penn State, and I don't see their fans wringing their hands about, damn, we should have kept James Franklin.
I think it'll be so much easier to rebuild Penn State than it would be to rebuild Maryland, though. Like, I think
agree with Mike.
The job Lox has done to bring in this talent is extraordinary,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if any coach can do that at Maryland. I think a lot of coaches can do that at Penn State with the resources and the history there.
Yeah,
and playing in front of 110,000 each week versus 35,
that's
45.
True. Indiana, really storied historical success over there down.
But that's a 1 out of 1 hire. Like, Kurt Signetti, like, the hire of all hires. I don't think it's fair to compare Indiana to
every school in the country wishes they had hired Kurt Signetti. Seriously, it's not like.
I mean, yeah,
you could turn out
Texas Tech too. I mean, bringing in a new coach, they've had a ton of historical success. You look at Virginia. I mean, just lots of schools this year in the top 25 that loaded with loaded with program pedigree. I'm just saying, in a new era of NIL and the transfer portal, the idea of rebuilding a program, I think, doesn't take as long as what you would look at 5, 6, even 3 years ago, because you're able to bring in kind of instant impact players. I'm not saying Maryland should or will fire Mike Locksley this season. I don't think it's happening. I was the one who just said that. I'm just saying that there are comparisons that you can draw between Penn State firing their coach who was failing to meet expectations he set and Mike Locksley potentially failing to meet the expectations he set. That's all I was trying to point out.
Super fair. That's enough on football for the week. We will obviously be talking about it a lot after the UCLA game. Bigger game than people realize. We'll do our predictions at the end of the episode. But we had Sasho on, and let's talk about the best team in College Park. And it's not really even close. The men's soccer program had an all-time week. They got 2 ranked wins. First, Friday night against Michigan. Bit of an odd game. They had 2 goals called back in the first half. And then 2 second half goals. Very nicely done. Leon Kuhl got a penalty to get the scoring started. They've looked great. I think the most impressive part, obviously they've scored 2 goals, whatever, but the most impressive part has been their defense and been Leon Kuhl. I mean, 3 straight shutouts, but I mean, honestly, in those games, he wasn't tested that much. Had a good save against Rutgers on Tuesday night. Speaking of the Rutgers game, another 2-0 win with 2 second half goals. I mean, this team has played solid, controlled a lot of possession, looked great in the midfield. Stefan Njike's looked incredible from the forward spot. And, honestly, this team, it's kind of what they were like last year at this time. I mean, they're 8th in the country right now. Doesn't include their ranked win from Tuesday night. This team is probably one of the 3 best teams in the country right now. I mean, they've against ranked opponents, they have looked unstoppable, really. The difference, this is the same way they looked last year at this time, pretty much. The difference is that right now, this team is healthy. Last year, this time, the team wasn't healthy, or they weren't. They were losing players, or they were about to lose players. If this Maryland team stays healthy, they're going to be competitive in pretty much every game they play, and have a chance to win the Big Ten tournament, regular season and postseason, and then also get a very good seed in the NCAA tournament. This is probably the best team that Maryland's had since the national championship in 2018. So it's going to be super, super exciting to watch. They get a bit of an easier week. They play Ohio State on Saturday. They haven't looked great. 2-4 in Big Ten play. I'd expect Maryland to get a win there on the road, or at least keep themselves undefeated. So this soccer team has looked great, and I would highly recommend tuning into the Terps, because this is a team that come late November you're going to want to have watched a bit of.
What do you think? What do you guys think of Sasha's answer about like post coaching career / how much longer he has? Were you able to gauge anything out of it, or not really?
Absolutely none. I don't think he's even thinking about retirement yet. I mean, coaches are like that. They are workhorses, and for someone like Sasho, I don't think he can even imagine not coaching a soccer season.
Yeah, I think it seemed like he knew that retirement was on like the precipice. I mean, he was talking about he wanted to be in the administrative role, that type of thing. But I agree. I don't think it was like at the front of mind, or like he, if he was going to retire after this season, I felt like he might have given a little bit more of a firm answer. But
he might have ideas of what he wants to do, but I can tell you he probably doesn't want to do any of them.
He did say he wants to break ground on a real soccer stadium.
They've been trying to do that for a while. Like, technically, they've had the plans for many years. They want to make, a Ludwig, it's just Ludwig, and separate it from the track. But, who knows if that's going to happen while he's here.
Yeah, I have no idea. That was the thing. And then win a national title, and then something about like splitting the seasons up is kind of how he wanted to go about it.
Yeah, in terms of the question you just asked, I'll say I don't think he gives much thought to it, probably. Honestly, he probably goes to bed at night thinking about Ohio State set pieces for Saturday. That's the kind of guy I suggest, or the vibe I get from him is he's laser focused on the next game, and he really doesn't care that much about anything else. But that's just the vibe I've gotten. Obviously, he's a non-public presence. I'm sure he's thinking about his life, but he's a very focused guy when it comes to soccer.
Yeah. Well, let's speed through the other sports. Women's soccer, not much to talk about. More losses for the Terps. They have now continued to struggle in conference play. Things after they got to 3 wins, which is a success for this program, but it's looking like kind of going to be a similar record for Marciano in year 1. Volleyball, more of the same thing. Losses to top teams Illinois and Wisconsin. Adam Hughes in conference continues to be pretty dismal. As Mike as Mike expresses some disappointment. And then we'll move finally on to field hockey. They have a crazy big week coming up, playing their dreaded rivals, the Northwestern Wildcats, but they were able to take a W home against Iowa in a big ranked win. Finally came out on top with their offense kind of propelling them down the stretch. That was a critical win to pick up over the Hawkeyes. Really adds to their resume, and the Terps are now in the top 10, ranked at number 10 in the country. So sets up a big matchup against number 1 Northwestern, and then they have some more ranked games before postseason play arrives. So things aren't getting any easier for Missy Maharg's squad.
Well said there, Sam. I don't think I have much else to add from the other Olympic sports. Let's talk Maryland picks. I got last weekend wrong, so I will start with Mike.
I'm going to take the Terps 30-27 over the Bruins. I think this will be a close one, probably high scoring with these offenses.
I've picked Maryland to lose the past 2 weeks, been right both times. But this week I'm actually going to take Maryland. I think UCLA is kind of a Cinderella darling, except for the other shoe is going to break this week. That's not the analogy, but whatever. I'll take the Terps. I think it's going to be high scoring as well, Mike. Let's do 31-20.
All right. Going across 2 time zones. It's tough because I haven't had much of a chance to watch UCLA the past 2 weeks, and I watched them a good amount the first 4 weeks. Might be a little biased into my opinion here. I think Maryland actually wins this game. I think they're playing for their coach a little bit more than people would think. Sidney Stewart definitely thinks that. So I will take the Terps. Let's say 18-15. Pretty close. Weird game out in Pasadena. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I went 2-1 last weekend in college football picks, so I'll start it right there. I'm going to be at the Georgia Ole Miss game, so want to have a little reason to root for Georgia. I'll take Georgia minus 7.5 against Ole Miss, BYU plus 3.5 against Utah, and then Cincinnati, I think one of the best teams in the country, not getting that much respect. Take a minus 21.5 against Oklahoma State. Mike, what do you got?
I also had a 2-1 week last week, I believe. Got to calculate all the records, but I'm going to take Miami favored by 13.5 points over Louisville. I'm also going to take the LSU Tigers 2.5 point underdogs at Vanderbilt. I like that line. It's going to be a pretty close SEC matchup there. And then I'm going to take Oklahoma 5.5 point favorites at South Carolina. I don't know. I just don't trust Shane Beamer's squad. I think he's a little bit of a clown.
I also went 2-1 last week. How about the fellas getting after it? I currently lead.
Are we back?
I lead the league right now in a record. I'm 12-9. I liked everybody's picks this week, but we'll see kind of what goes down. College football been really, really weird this week, or weird this year. I've been pretty fascinated by it. I'm also gonna pick in the Georgia game, but I'm gonna take Ole Miss plus 7.5. I think Lane Kiffin's team pulls out, and I also just think Brendan's picks are generally pretty bad. So give me Ole Miss in that one. Then I'm going to go with a really big sleeper. Give me Sam Houston State, just straight up, beating UTEP. Sam Houston State was the team that Arch Manning flexed on in that game. I don't think that's going to happen again. And then lastly, USC and Notre Dame. The Irish, for some reason, are favorites. I don't love that. 9.5 points feels way too much to me. Give me the Trojans to cover that.
Yeah, I know. I thought about picking that Sam Houston game as well, but I'm a normal person, so I did not. All right, let's do Terrific Terp. We'll see what happens this weekend. All right, this week's Terrific Terp is a name you'll be hearing all basketball season long because of his recent reconnection to Maryland basketball. This week's honoree is Steve Blake. The reason you'll be hearing his name all season long is because his son, Nick Blake, is a freshman on the Maryland basketball team this year. Nick played at Olympia High School and averaged 10.8 points last year, notably shooting 38% from the three-point line. Enough about Nick, this is Steve's award. Steve Blake came to Maryland after a complicated high school career where he was banned from playing public high school basketball in Florida due to violation from his head coach, Frank Martin. Anyways, once he made it to Maryland, he made an impact right away. His freshman year, he started almost every game and averaged 7 points per contest. Sophomore year was much of the same, except he shot 40% from 3. Junior year, the year Maryland won the national championship, which was in large part to Blake's ability to control the game and be a distributor. He averaged 8 points per game and nearly had that many assists too, with 7.9 per game. While he was not the main point scorer in the NCAA tournament, he logged 40 assists in March Madness that year. His ability to be a coach on the floor and set the tone for the team physically is why his number hangs in the rafters in College Park. When it was all said and done at Maryland, he became the first ACC player to reach 1,000 points, 800 assists, 400 rebounds, and 200 steals. He could do it all. After college, Blake was drafted in the second round by the nearby Washington Wizards. He spent 2 years there before bouncing around the league. All in all, he played on 8 NBA teams in 13 years, the most of them coming with the Trailblazers and the Lakers. He left the NBA in 2016 with a career average of 9.8 points per game and 6 assists. He then spent time as an assistant coach with the Trailblazers and Suns from 2017 to 2020. Blake is a last name you'll hear a lot this year in College Park, but this week's Terrific Terp is Steve Blake.
Are you going to hear Blake's name a lot this year? Nick Blake's like a walk-on.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I guarantee you'll hear his name a good amount. They show the roster at the beginning of the game. They'll highlight somebody. The announcers are going to have it. Every time he gets in the game, I guarantee you they're going to make a comment about it. So come back to this in 5 months.
Shout out Frank Martin, Final Four coach.
Yes.
Shout out to Steve Blake. Immaculate grid.
Yes.
Is that Frank Martin that coach?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Frank Martin, South Carolina guy, yeah.
That's crazy. Good stuff, Brendan. Good stuff, guys. Appreciate you guys all for tuning in, and we'll be back next week. Thank you.
Guess what? You've got Under the Shell Podcast. Nobody does it better.